Welcome to Compassionate Conversations. The goal of our podcast is to explore topics related to serious illness. Ancora Compassionate Care exists to be a supportive presence for life's journey. We can provide care and support wherever a patient may be on their journey with a serious illness. Ancora Compassionate Care began as Hospice of Rockingham County in 1987. While our name changed in late 2023, we are still the local provider the community has always known. We'll always be there because we've always been here. Welcome to this edition of Compassionate Conversations. My name is Lynn Flanagan and I'm the CEO here at Ancora Compassionate Care. Allantra Lewis is joining me today, and she is one of our wonderful social workers and a member of our support services team. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
We have got a very unique project to share and to talk about, but before we dive in, what would you like our listeners to know about you?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know if they can tell from my voice. I'm actually from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Born and raised. A lot of people say, where do you get all your creativity and things from? I would say my parents were very creative, and I actually attended Duke Ellington School of the Arts. So I feel like it helped frame a lot of the way that I see things and think, and kind of that creative side, which is kind of what pushed the store.
Right.
Yeah, so I've been a kindergarten teacher for about 3 years. I was an assistant teacher in Durham, and then I was a creative arts teacher for kindergarten through 5th grade.
Awesome.
So that's just pretty much me. I'm an artist, and I think a lot of that is kind of what's starting to show up in my work now,
Right.
Which I love. So
I do too.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, so completely selfish, but one of the things I love about this podcast is I just learned 3 things about you that I did not know. So that is awesome for me. But so how long have you been a social worker?
Well, every time I tell someone this, they're like, oh, wow, you jumped right into it. So I graduated my social work program May 13th, and then I started the job May 15th.
Well, I mean, there's no reason to wait around. Let's just go.
It was kind of,
I love it.
Walked off the stage right into Ancora.
So, well, You're a woman after my own heart, because that's kind of how I tend to do things too. So our mission here, and we've shared this so many times with this podcast, but our mission at Ancora is to be a supportive presence for life's journey. And of course, that's true whether we're talking about our hospice service line, our serious illness care, all the way across the board. But one of the ways we do that, we become that supportive presence, is by improving the quality of our patient's life. Sometimes I think in just the general understanding of what our organization does, that might get lost in the community, because we tend to think of, I've been a nurse for a long time. So I think about the physical care of the patient.
Right.
But when we truly deliver holistic care, we're looking at every single patient that we serve, their physical self, mental and emotional self, and their spiritual self.
Mm-hmm.
So this project that we're going to share, so Ancora's General Store,
yes.
And some people probably just went, what? So we were truly offering an experience to improve their quality of life.
Yes, ma'am.
But tell me, how did this even become a thought? What the vision? I just love this whole story, so I just would love you to share.
So at one of the facilities that we serve, I had a patient who is dealing with dementia. Mm-hmm. So sometimes she says things and you have to kind of piece things together. But then it's very beautiful because sometimes she's just very direct.
Yeah.
And she is like, she comes to. And I always say she's so funny because she's so direct. So I remember one day she was just venting to me because a lot of our facility patients feel as though they had to give up a sense of their autonomy, right? And their whole worlds have been shaken, especially patients dealing with dementia. They come in and out. That's one thing that I'm learning. So I remember I asked her, I said, well, what's going on? What's some things that you miss? Because she talks about home a lot, but her idea of home changes.
Right.
But what we do understand is that it's not where she is right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, what is it that you miss about being home? And she said, I can't tell you the last time I've grabbed my own fruit or my own vegetables. And I was like, And I just sat with that for a second. And to me, it sounds so small.
Right.
Right. When someone's talking about home, they equate it to not getting their own fruits and vegetables or having the autonomy to do so. But when I really thought about it, I said, Alantra, that's something you take for granted.
Right.
You know, every time I have to go to the grocery store, I sigh. I'm like, oh gosh, another grocery store trip.
Right.
But when you no longer have access to that, when you no longer have the access to going out and picking your own produce or just kind of taking your time perusing around and kind of figure out what you want to feed yourself and what you want to feed your family, that's something big for someone who doesn't have access to that anymore. Yeah. So when she said that, I remember I said, I wish we could bring a store to you. So that's really what pushed it. I said, I want to bring a store to her. And I want this to be an experience where she actually doesn't just receive items, but she can go around and shop for these items. And so, encouraging her store.
I love the creativity, but you bring up such a good point. And this was huge perspective for me. So as we started thinking about this project and it starts to come to life, you are exactly right, because I do the same thing.
Right.
I will get to the end of my day and go, got to stop by Food Line before I can go home. Like it is a chore.
Right. And I kind of projected those feelings onto her. When she told me that, I was like, you miss grocery shopping? I was like, what is it to miss? And then I realized it's not grocery shopping that she misses. It's that quality of life that she once had that she misses. And that's what made me realize, Alantra, it's much deeper than her picking out fruits and vegetables. It's her living with herself. It's her enjoying something that once was hers, an experience that was like specific to her as a person. Yeah. And I was like, when you think about it like that, like you said, holistically, it's like this matters to her.
It absolutely does. And when it just drives home the point too, that there's so much to grieve besides death, right?
Yep.
We have losses along our journey that some of us may not think about. You can certainly grieve the loss of independence. You and I can get in our car and go to that grocery store that we've sighed about going to, but we have the choice and we can do that independently. You can certainly grieve the loss of health. Maybe it's your mobility that's keeping you from being able to go. So many things, but that is now part of that patient's journey. And so when we come in, our whole team is looking to how can we support. So the creativity that came out of that conversation with your patient, it still just amazes me. I was just so excited about it. So overall, in addition to bringing this experience to, and these were residents in a local assisted living facility, what were you trying to accomplish as this thought continued to grow? Because it went beyond fruits and vegetables, right?
It did. I think my main goal was memory support, mental stimulation, that sense of autonomy, that sense of self, that sense of belonging, community, culture. I kind of wanted to bring all of that to these patients. And just like you mentioned, Lynn, grief, one thing I will give our bereavement team here, they taught me a lot, is the idea of complicated grief.
Yes.
We all have this one idea of grief. Grief is you've lost someone, you're grieving. And I think complicated grief puts things to a bigger perspective. It makes you look at it on a macro level. These people are grieving. Like you said, they're grieving their quality of life. And so I wanted them to have a space where they can come and connect to a part of their selves that they thought they missed or lost, right? And kind of exercise that muscle that's just been stagnant for a while.
Yep.
Like one thing I was talking about with the store, one of the residents actually became anxious. I don't know if you saw that resident.
I did not.
She had 3 of her aides with her, and she was actually from memory support.
Mm-hmm.
And she came to the store and she just became so anxious and overwhelmed with the entire experience. But on the flip side of that, you saw her work through that anxiety, because I know that the anxiety was from the fact that she hadn't done this in so long. She hadn't experienced something like this. So many people, so many choices and options. You're walking around. That was just a muscle that she hadn't exercised. So seeing how everyone kind of flocked to her, kind of built community around her, walked her through the store, pushed her and encouraged her to, what else would you like? What are you into? You know, she came out of that store with a bag full of things.
I love that.
So you go in anxious because it's a muscle that hasn't been exercised. And then you leave like, you know, this is an experience. Right.
So then you've got a sense of accomplishment.
Exactly.
And I did wonder, because some of the facilities workers came in, of course, with some of the residents. And it was interesting to watch the impact of the store on them, because from what you just said, they're seeing these residents in an experience that they've never seen them in before.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, I think, for them to just kind of get a different view, maybe even of a past life, so to speak, of how this resident used to think about things and used to choose.
And what they're capable of.
Exactly.
I think sometimes, you know, our patients can show us one thing when we get there in the space with them. And until you see them in a space that's completely different from what they're used to. And this patient can do this. She can advocate for herself. She can ask for what she wants. She can kind of pick through different colors. The memories coming back. And so things like this, for me, the biggest thing is just really exercising that muscle and that part of us that we feel like we've been disconnected from.
So we had a ton of donations.
Yes.
So it truly was a store. I am going to show something here. I'm going to take one. I love this.
I love these so much.
I do too. So we had Ancora bucks. So just to give you an idea of what this whole experience was like. So residents that came to the store were given $40.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what was on the table. So it truly was an entire store.
It was a general store. And I really appreciated that, Lynn, because my fear going into this, I was like, I do not want to pacify our patients. I don't want this to be I don't want this to be juvenile, right? I don't want them to just come in and feel like, oh, you know, it's just snacks. And what I appreciated is that we had something that they could use in different aspects of their lives, right? Something that everyone would be interested in. We had handmade body soaps. We had handmade room sprays. We had blankets. We had puzzles. We did have the snacks because everyone loves a snack. It was just nail polish. We had beautiful hair bows. It was just a little bit of everything for everyone. And I appreciated that because it really was a store that even we would want to go to.
That's right.
And participate in. And that was something that I had a lot of anxiety about going into it. And I appreciated that we saw them for who they were as people and individuals, and we catered to that. So,
and on every table, of course, were prices of items. One of the things that amazed me, and it really made me, like you just said, see them as people, but people coming from a time where maybe they had to think about money a little bit differently than maybe we would today, depending on their situation. But to know they had $40 in their wallet, and I loved it because I was able to step out of my role as CEO and I was a personal shopper for the afternoon. It was awesome. So with the couple of residents that I helped, but listening to them make decisions based on what something costs. No, I've already got some of that in my room, so I don't need that. I'll go over here. We did have one lady that oh my. So she went to the fingernail polish and we found some and we were comparing our fingernail polish. And I said, I think this color would look great on you. She said, I do too. How much is it? So I picked up the sign and I said, it's $5. I will not tell you exactly what she said, but she let me know it was too expensive. But then I watched her go throughout the whole store, and she finally wound up and she made several purchases. But just the processing and the thinking through and the decision making. Again, who knows how long it has been since some of those simple decisions, well, they weren't simple, but some of those decisions were made, things that we may take for granted that we probably do every day.
And I remember that resident, when you came to me and we laughed about it and you said, see, things for this generation might have cost differently than what we're used to today. So it's even a generational gap.
It absolutely is.
It opens room for conversation like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me this was a few cents? Right. And we really push life review here. So that opens space for life review. So tell me, so you mean this is, you can engage in that way. Yeah. And one of the bigger components of this was engagement.
Yes.
Right. And so those little opportunities, they might seem minute, but that's a bigger thing.
Yep.
So.
And our team learned so much, which I am very appreciative of, because I think we were all very open to learning all the time. Mm-hmm. But thinking about that generational gap, I think it was, even though we do this all the time as far as serving patients and interacting with them, but I think that even caused us to take a step back as a team and go, oh, there's so much more to this person,
right, than
being a resident at an assisted living facility.
For sure.
In the time frame that we're coming into their life, right?
Yep.
It really does make you stop and think about the whole person.
It makes you look at your teammate differently too.
Absolutely.
Like, we all have different roles within this organization, but we don't really get to see each other outside in the actual work, engaging with patients. And, I loved seeing you, Lynn, out there with the patients, and you were there from the beginning to the end, and you were everywhere. You were zip-zapping everywhere, talking to everyone. And as a director, I never really get to see you alongside me with patients. So it was just nice for all of us to be there. Flavor was there. Everyone was there, from these bigger roles to the roles that are out in the community, and we were all in this one space.
Yep.
And so it was just, I think it was good team building too.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So 2 things that struck me. The detail that you went into. So we had a checkout station. So they literally, again, not just picking it up. They actually had to go to the cash register, turn in their money, and they got their items, right? Mm-hmm. But what really struck me was the music that was playing. Just like it plays in the grocery store. Now, that was some more learning for me. I didn't realize was it Spotify that actually has a playlist called Grocery Store?
Yes. So the playlist is actually called Grocery Store Favorites.
Okay.
And it was a great playlist.
It absolutely
And
was.
I was like, oh, it has the ads. I don't have the version without the ads. But then I said, wait, the ads kind of add to it. And I was like, you're in a grocery store. You hear those ads.
You hear it. It made it real. Oh, my goodness. So overall, now this was open to not just our patients that Ancora sees, but it was open to all the residents that were able to come or chose to come. What was the end result for you? Did it meet expectations? Did it exceed?
Honestly, it exceeded expectations. Yeah. It really did, because I didn't realize how much it would impact so many people. I was thinking about the residents, and I was like, okay, this will be good for them. But like we mentioned earlier, it was really good for us.
It was.
It was really fun. And it was just nice. It was just nice to be there with them in that way.
Yep.
Right. And it was just nice to see them joyful and just happy about the little things that they received.
Yep.
And even I had some patients out front who were nervous to go in the store. And they were saying, this costs money. We don't have the money. And just saying to them, oh, well, we're providing you the money for it and core bucks. So just come on, and just kind of encouraging them to kind of get over that anxiety and that fear.
Mhm.
It was just so much happening at once, so many moving parts that just created this thing.
Well, it was as close to a real life experience for something that we were creating. I think it was as close as we could possibly get, as opposed to putting people in the car and truly going to Food Line or going to Walmart. But the Ancora General Store.
Even you mentioned the cashiers. I remember sitting by one of the cashiers, just making sure everything was okay, and the line was getting long. And I remember saying, "Oh my gosh, the line is long." And I said to the lady, "Are you doing okay?" And she was like, "I'm fine. I'm waiting in line." So it's just like everyone bought in.
Yes.
To the activity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that made it very realistic too. Everyone was, even the residents, they played their part.
Yeah.
The part of customers, the part of a grocery shopper, a part of a shopper. And it was just nice to see everyone just kind of living in this created experience.
Yeah.
But it was very real to everyone. It
really was. And then think about the benefits. So when you talk about it, and maybe we talk to somebody in the community and go, well, they had an Ancora General Store. Well, that's nice. I was like, no, you don't understand. You got to live this whole experience and what we brought to them. So I think as an organization, that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, that we actually, as a team, created this experience and then took it to them. We talk a lot about what we do, and there's a stigma being attached to hospice or end of life care, sometimes even our serious illness care. But I really want people to hear and see this is a huge part of what we do too. It is improving that quality of life, maybe even helping the patient themselves get a glimpse of the person that's in there. Yeah. Sometimes we can even kind of get lost and we become the diagnosis or the age or wherever we are in that journey. And this brought about the real people that are in there.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
It was just awesome. And the creativity, I've said it to you many times since it happened, but that was such an awesome way for us to live our mission out in the community.
And like you said, we have these conversations about changing the culture. Us as an organization, we're working to change the culture of what hospice is. And we have those conversations with patients and families all the time. But when you do things like this and they get to actually experience it, they start to attach the change themselves. So,
well, anything that we didn't cover that you want to share about Ancora's General Store?
I think we covered everything.
I think we did. Yeah. It's just an honor to serve the community with you. I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the experience. Certainly.
Thank you, Lynn. And I'm grateful for, leadership like you all who takes our talent seriously, helps us implement them, and believes in the visions that we have.
Yeah.
And that helps us. Yeah.
That's what it's all about. We're serving this community together for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Very grateful. So, if you would like any more information about Ancora Compassionate Care, whether that be hospice care, serious illness care, our soon-to-be counseling center, or even our volunteer opportunities, please give us a call at 336-427-9022. Make sure you like us on Facebook, and you can actually see pictures of experiences like Alantra and I have described to you today.